or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is the fifth in a 5-part series dedicated towards new members or people that are just logging into BNI Connect for the first time. We cover a whole range of topics during these set of 5 webinars. We talk about how to fill out your profile and how to use the online slips. We talk about the social media portion of BNI Connect and how to utilize the worldwide system of BNI. Yesterday, we went a little bit deeper and talked about some of the tools and reports. And today what we're going to talk about is possibly the most important topic, and that is visitors. How can we use BNI Connect to help with inviting visitors to your chapter? And how can you get more of those visitors to actually show up to the meeting? So that's today's topic, is inviting and registering visitors. Before we get started with today's content, just a couple of housekeeping things. First of which is that this is a live webinar. So if you have any questions, please do ask those questions as we're going through the material today. I can see them pop up on my screen and I can answer the questions right in stride. Of course, if it's something totally unrelated, I'm happy to stay on the call afterwards and answer as many questions as you have about BNI Connect. The only silly question is the unasked question. We're scheduled for about 30 minutes worth of content. It takes about 25-30 minutes to go through the visitors process here in BNI Connect. That said, again, I'm always happy to stay on this call as long as needed. We're also going to be recording this session, which means that you can refer back to it later. If you have any unanswered questions that you had and you want to review the material, you can check it out on our YouTube site, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, as well as on the support site, which you can access by clicking the question mark in the upper right-hand corner. The video should be available probably in a couple of days or so. Usually it takes about 48 hours for me to get them converted and uploaded to the YouTube channel. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about visitors and how BNI Connect can help with the visitor process at your chapter. So this here is just a very, very simple flow chart of the flow of visitors in BNI Connect and how BNI Connect can help with that flow of visitors. There's 3 steps to the process, 2 of which happen before the meeting and 1 of which happens after the meeting. So before the meeting, the very first part of this process is inviting a visitor to your chapter meeting. BNI Connect can help with that part of it through the visitor invitation email. The next step of that process is still before the meeting, but after the visitor has said, yes, you know what, I'd love to come to your meeting, you can pre-register that visitor for the meeting, which sends a bunch of reminders, and I'll show you how that part works as well. And then the final part of the meeting, which we're not really going to cover today because this is more of a leadership part of the process, but it's registering the visitors that did attend. So did they attend the meeting? Were they an official visitor? It'll then send a thank you message to them, as well as register them into your chapter's visitor database so you can go back and look up your visitors later. By the way, this particular flow chart that you see on the screen is part of a longer manual. You can find the manual if you notice that in the GoToWebinar software, there's a little handouts section, and I put this manual up there in both Word and PDF format. If you'd like some good nighttime reading, feel free to download a copy of this. This will go more in-depth into the actual technical steps of all of this in BNI Connect. If you happen to be listening to this on a recording, please just send an email to support@bniconnect.com. Again, that's support@bniconnect.com, and say, please send me the visitor manual. We will be happy to do so. Excuse me for a second. So let's take a look at how this visitor process works. So this first part of this process, inviting visitors. So I'm not going to do this all via PowerPoint. Let's jump right into BNI Connect and take a look at how this works. So this is your home screen in BNI Connect. So this is the first thing you see when you log in. Make sure I'm zoomed in well enough here. So in order to get to some of these other functions within BNI Connect, we're going to have to really be brave and go beyond the home screen here. And we have to go into some of these menus that exist along the top of the screen. We have network, operations, and reports. Those are the 3 things that most people see in the system: network, operations, and reports. The network is going to be all of the social media stuff. So it's going to be the, the groups and the testimonials and the connections and things like that, really interacting with all the other people around the world in BNI. Operations and reports are really the two other places that you have access to. Operations is going to be where you need to go to do anything. It's really the day-to-day management of your chapter. Whereas reports are always going to be read-only. So if you want to get statistics back out of BNI Connect, reports is the place to go. Anything else that you want to do, go to operations. So we're going to take a look. We're going to go to operations. And if we look under the chapter level operations here, you'll see a bunch of things that we can work with on the left-hand side. Now, the two places we're going to work on today is manage visitors. And then if we want to send an email invitation, the other place that we're going to go to is down a little bit further, and we have create email. Under create email, we have a couple of different options. By the way, this first option is really, really helpful if you happen to need to get a message out to your chapter. I can remember, before BNI Connect, I used to have to go to my email and look for the last message to the whole group and hit reply all, and then send that message out to my chapter. Now, that was never really worked all that well because it would, new members that had just joined, they wouldn't be in that list, and people that had left the chapter a couple of weeks before or a month before, they didn't really want to get those emails anymore. Well, if you need a quick distribution list for your chapter, just click on Email My Chapter, and you can just highlight this and copy and paste it into your own email program. Remember to always put everybody into the BCC line for blind carbon copy. That way people aren't, getting a whole bunch of reply alls, and if the email does get forwarded, people's email addresses remain private. But the thing that I wanted to show you here was the email visitor invitation, which is the second option down. And if we click on email visitor invitation, what this is a predefined template in the system. So it's going to take our information that we type in here, it's going to merge it into this template and send out a quick email to a visitor. Now keep in mind that BNI is not a cold call organization. We are also not a spam organization. You should be sending this to somebody who is expecting to receive an invitation or expecting to receive more information about BNI. I like to think of this really as the second contact with a person. So think of it this way. Let's say that you're out at a networking event and you're out there, you're shaking hands, you're meeting people, and you come across somebody that you think might be a good fit for your chapter. You might want to introduce them to the other people in your chapter. So you do what we all do. You say to them, hey, how would you like to come to one of my BNI meetings? I'd love to introduce you to the rest of my, my referral team. And of course they say yes, I'd love to come to the meeting. Do you mind if I send you some more information? This is really where this comes into play, sending them more information and giving them an invitation to come and visit your chapter. What this does is it kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So you don't have to think about how to explain BNI. This will send a nice branded image. So let's say that I met somebody. His name is Bob Jones from Jones Co. Now, I'm going to test this out, so I'm just going to put my own email address in. You're welcome to do the same. If you'd like to see what this looks like and you'd like to see what the email says, analyze it, and figure it all out, just send a copy to yourself. This isn't tracked in any way. We're not building up a prospect list or anything like that. It is just a very one-off, one-time only email. So feel free to put your own email address in if you'd like to check it out. And the personal message. The personal message is going to be the first paragraph of this email letter that's being generated. So again, this should be not your first introduction. This should be a second introduction to the person. So I'm going to say something like, it was great meeting you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. And then I just click send, and it's going to take this, it's going to wrap it up in a nice little package and send it immediately via email. You can only send it to one person at a time. Again, this isn't meant to be a spam or a mass invitation to hundreds of people. It's a one-off email. Again, it does go out right away. So here's the copy that I just sent to myself. I can say your invitation, my chapter wants to meet you. It has a nice BNI branded graphic in there. It puts in Dear Bob, that's the person I sent it to. It was great meeting you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. It then automatically puts in all the information about your chapter. So you don't have to remember the physical address of your chapter. I mean, I know how to get there, but I don't necessarily know the address. So this will put all that information in there for you so they can drop it into their GPS. It also has a brief description of what BNI is. BNI is a business and professional networking organization. It then lets them know that we're looking for somebody from their profession and to please RSVP with you. So that allows them, if they hit reply to this message, it will go directly to your email. Again, if they hit reply to this, it will go to your email, even though it did come from BNI Connect. And that's all there is to it. I mean, that's creating an email invitation. And again, it takes the guesswork out of it. It takes the, well, how do I explain BNI and what do I say and things like that. So the next part of this process, after we've now sent an invitation, the next part of this process, so step 2 in this diagram, is going to be now registering those visitors. Now this right here, this is the key to the whole operation. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever invited a visitor that didn't show up to your meeting? Have you ever invited a visitor that didn't show up to the meeting? I mean, I know I have, and I'm pretty sure it's happened to other people around the world as well. One of the reasons that happens is because when we invite people, again, go back to my scenario that I had where we're at a networking event and we invite somebody to the chapter meeting. When we invite them, it tends to be a very, very casual invitation. So, we're saying to them, hey, how'd you like to come to my networking meeting? Well, they're at a networking meeting and they're being invited to another networking meeting. So they say, yeah, you know what, sure, I'll come to this other networking meeting. Oh, what time is it? Oh, yeah, it's Thursday, 7 o'clock. Oh, 7 o'clock, no problem, right after work. Oh, no, 7 o'clock in the morning? Oh, well, that changes things. Well, but yeah, you know what, I should still be able to be there. Then all of a sudden, Thursday rolls around and the alarm clock goes off at, oh God, 30 in the morning, and they end up hitting the snooze button. The reason that they hit the snooze button and they don't show up is, again, that casual invitation. There's no expectation that they have to be at this meeting. You have to put this in the perspective of a visitor. They're thinking this is just another networking event. There's going to be 100 people in the room. Nobody's going to notice that I'm not there. They've never really experienced BNI before. So when we register them for the meeting, we're now setting an expectation that they need to show up. We're now saying, this isn't just another networking event. This is BNI. We expect you to be there for a full 90 minutes. We're looking forward to you being there. Please bring plenty of business cards and to budget a little bit of extra time to network at the end. We're changing this from a casual networking event to a business meeting, just through that registration process. So let's take a look at how that works in BNI Connect. So there's 2 ways that a visitor can be registered for an upcoming meeting. One way is through BNI Connect. So you logged into BNI Connect, you can register all of your visitors that are coming to the upcoming meetings. The other way is through your regional website and your chapter pages, and I'll show you that as well. So the first way here is, if we're still in operations, again, if we want to do anything regarding data input, we want to go to the operations menu, and the very first thing at the top says manage visitors. Now, most of the time, the only option that you're going to see here is the third one down. It says register a prospective visitor before a meeting. Again, register a prospective visitor before a meeting. And if we click this, all it is a very, very simple form. You just have to go through the form and fill in the blanks, and the one with the stars are the ones that are going to be mandatory. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to register, Bob Jones, who I just invited. So let me pick a category here. Say he's in agricultural. I'm inviting him to my Shiver region in my Burr chapter. And I'm going to choose a visit date. Now you'll notice I can only choose future dates on the day of the week that my meeting is meeting for. This is how you know you're in the right place. If you have the ability to choose a past meeting, You're in the wrong place. So you can only choose future meetings. So let's say I'm going to register him for next week's meeting on the 23rd. And I just need to fill out his information. So Bob Jones, and he's from Jones Co., 1 Here Street, and that is in Thereville, Antarctica, postal code 00000, phone number, and any other information you have. Now, email address is mandatory. And the reason it's mandatory is because this is what starts the process with that potential visitor. So what I'm going to do, once again, is I'm going to put my own email address in so you guys can see what this kind of looks like. So as soon as I click Submit, again, here's where the magic happens. Bob Jones here is going to immediately get an email saying, congratulations, you are now registered to visit the Burr chapter in Antarctica. So I just got this message right here. It says, hi, Bob, you are confirmed to visit the BNI Burr chapter on this particular date. So it's not just a show up to this networking event anytime you want to. It's a you are registered for this particular date at this particular time. Please plan to be there for 90 minutes. And remember to bring plenty of business cards. Now, the wording may change slightly depending on what region you're in. Your executive director may have customized the message a little bit, but generally speaking, that is what the visitor is going to receive. So now all of a sudden the light bulb goes off in their head that says, oh, you know what? I can't just sleep in and blow this off. Jeremy is expecting me to be there that day. So they'll get this. They'll also get a reminder 2 days before the meeting, assuming that you're registering them more than 2 days before the meeting. So on the 21st, Bob will get another message saying, hey, just a reminder, you are registered to visit that chapter meeting. All right, so the other thing that happens is that the entire leadership team, so the president, the vice president, the secretary-treasurer, all of the visitor hosts, and the director consultant for the chapter all get an email announcing this visitor. So I happen to get those emails for this chapter, and Alfred E. Newman is the president of the chapter, and he got a notification. He said, hey, Bob Jones is confirmed to visit the BNI Burr chapter. Please be prepared to welcome Bob. Remember that visitors can become members. Now, what they can do with this information is awesome. They can take this and pre-welcome Bob to the meeting. There's so many different ways that they can reach out to Bob to make sure that he feels welcome before he ever even walks through the door or sits down and the meeting starts. They can call Bob up. They can say, hey, Bob, I notice you're in the agricultural profession. Well, you know what? We have somebody in here in our chapter that sells fertilizer. I can't wait for you to come in and meet with that person. They could have name badges ready for Bob before they even walk through the door. Anything that we can do to make Bob feel more welcome, the better the chance that he is A, going to show up, and B, might submit an application and become a long-term member of the group. All right, so I did mention that there is a second way that you can also register visitors for an upcoming meeting, and that's through the public website as well. So you have the inside of BNI Connect, which only you have access to as a member of BNI. That is a privilege of BNI. But there's also all these chapter websites and all these regional websites that everybody out in the world has access to. Now, you can get to your regional website by clicking on this regional website button in the upper right-hand corner. Again, the regional website button in the upper right-hand corner, that's going to bring you to your regional website. Now, I happen to be a member in Rhode Island, so this is taking me to my regional website, so bniri.com. And on the regional websites, there's 2 different places that visitors can register to visit a meeting. So one way is if, let's say that they're going through and they're looking at chapters and they're looking through all the different chapters in the region, and let's say that, let's see, the Wakefield chapter, that looks like a place that I want to visit. They click on that Wakefield chapter, and they can see all the members. They can see their profiles. They can see we have 44 members in that group. They meet on Thursdays in Wakefield. That's a great group that we want to go to. So they can go ahead and click this button that says Visit this chapter. And you'll notice this form is very similar to the one that we have For us on the inside, the only difference really is that they are going to have to enter a CAPTCHA code, and they are going to have to answer the question of who invited them to that meeting, and hopefully they'll be putting your name in. Now, this also works if you happen to be out and about and you don't have your login to BNI Connect, but you still want to register a visitor. You can always use this tool as well. Just make sure that you're putting your own name into the invited by column. But this starts the same process. So that whole same email chain, the visitor will get that email saying you're registered. They'll get the reminder 2 days before. The leadership team will get all of their emails. The visitor host get the email, and the director consultant gets the email as well. Now, there is another place. So this is on the chapter details page here. Now, every chapter also has their own website. I can get there by clicking on Visit This Chapter website. And on the chapter website, now you can create a bigger button if you'd like to, but up here on the left-hand side, there's a Visit Chapter button. And you'll notice that there is a same exact form here. So again, they just fill it out, they hit the CAPTCHA code, and they can go ahead and register to visit this chapter as well. Now, along with that, one of the benefits of this is that as we're registering these visitors, it will also create a report, so you always know how many visitors will be at your chapter meeting. And it's also great that you can use this information in order to use it as a check-in list for the visitors that are coming to your meeting. Rather than having them sign in, you could just check them off as they show up. So if we want to look at the reports, we do have to go to the Reports menu. So if I go over to Reports and I look at the chapter level reports, by the way, for any director consultants that might be on the line with us today, there is also a regional level report where you can look at all of the registered visitors for the entire region. But here at the chapter level reports, if I scroll down to the bottom, there is a report called the Visitor Registration Report. And under this Visitor Registration Report, by default, it's going to show us the next 1 week worth of activity. I can change this to any date range I want to. So if I want to see all the visitors for the next month, if you remember, I registered Bob Jones to actually visit on the 23rd. So let's say I want to look at all the visitors through the end of the month. I can change the date on that and click Go. And here we can see we have Bob Jones from Jones Co. and his phone number and the email address and the profession and when he's scheduled to visit, and most importantly, who invited him to the meeting. So all of this information is available once you start registering your visitors. And then from a visitor host perspective, the visitor host that normally have to go in and type all this information in after the meeting, they can just mark the person as attended. I'll cover that process a little bit more in next week's webinar for leadership teams. So that's all well and good. So what I really wanted to know at one point was, does this process actually work? And I've been in my chapter since 2002. So I've been a BNI member for quite some time, and this was a new process to me as well a couple of years ago. So of course I doubted it, and how can a couple of emails possibly make any difference whatsoever? So I was president, I think it was about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and we're getting ready to do a Visitors Day. I know you guys probably do visitors as well, Visitors Days as well in your region. And I didn't want to change anything about the Visitors Day. We were still doing all the letters and the invitations and all that kind of stuff. But what I want to do is just take the one step further and register our visitors. As president, I want to know basically, hey, how many visitors do we actually have coming? Because we always go around the week before the Visitors Day and we'd say, hey, how many visitors do you have coming? Oh, I have 2 visitors. Oh, I have 3 visitors. Oh, I have 4 visitors. And by the time you go around the room, especially in a chapter of about 50 people, you're like, wow, there's going to be like 150 visitors here. And for anybody that's been through a Visitors Day, most of the time you only end up with maybe 20 visitors. So it's not a very reliable count. So I said, listen, guys, here's the deal. Register your visitors in BNI Connect. And the day before, I did that typical thing, and I said, it sounds like we're going to have 150 visitors. And I went and I checked the system. So I checked the reports. And what we had was 6 visitors. That's it. We only had 6 visitors registered for the meeting. So this is a week before our Visitors Day, and I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to be a very good Visitors Day if we only have 6 people coming. So I created this email and I sent it out to my chapter. I said, hey guys, We have 6 days until our Visitors Day, and we have only 6 people registered. Do me a favor and please click here to register your visitors. And that click here link, that went to the chapter website, just to the registration page from the chapter website. So they didn't even have to log into BNI Connect to register them. I didn't want to have any of those arguments about the lost password or anything like that. So all they had to do was click the link, type in their visitor. Now the great part about this is not only could I see all the visitor names and everything like that, but I could see who was inviting the visitors. So that created a little bit of a competition in the chapter as well, which was very, very helpful. So all of a sudden, because I was president, I was getting these emails, bing, 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 and my email's going crazy. And I looked up, and by the next day, we had 21 registered visitors. So I said, you know what? I'm going to send out another email. Sent out another email, said, hey guys, we have 5 days until our Visitors Day, and we have 21 registered visitors. By the next day, we had 26 registered visitors. 3 days before, we had 34 registered visitors. 2 days before, we had 39 registered visitors. 13 hours before our Visitors Day, and we had 45 registered visitors. Now, based on past experiences with Visitors Day, where about maybe 10%, 20% of the visitors show up. If you're having a really good day, 50% of the visitors show up. So, you know, I'm expecting maybe 20 people in the room, if we're lucky. As it turns out, we ended up with 42 visitors in attendance. So 42 out of the 45 showed up. And the weirdest thing was the 3 that didn't show up, they all called and apologized that they couldn't make the meeting. Again, because they were expected to be at that meeting, they felt bad that they couldn't come to the meeting, so they called and apologized. We ended up with 6 applications turned in. Another 3 were promised and were turned in after that. And we ended up with 8 new members. So I would say that that was a very successful Visitors Day. So, of course, if that works, then you do it again, right? Well, I stepped down from the leadership team, so I wasn't on the leadership team anymore the next term, and you would think that that worked so well that the new leadership team would just jump on that. Well, unfortunately they didn't, because you know what? There's so much technology out there nowadays that can do this so much better, right? I mean, just think about it. A Facebook event should be able to draw in hundreds of people. So they decided to do that route. They set up a Facebook event, and they really all hounded it and shared it and did a whole bunch of things with that. They sent out email blasts. They even broke the chapter into 3 groups because we're such a big chapter. They said, you know what? We're so big, we don't want to overwhelm this with all the success, so we're going to have 3 different Visitors Days. We're going to break the chapter into teams, and we're going to compete against each other, and whoever brings the most visitors is going to get a free membership. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And as it turns out, over 3 Visitors Days, we had a total of 8 visitors. 8 total visitors in 3 weeks. No applications. I mean, I think we actually had less visitors than we would have if we just didn't do anything at all. So fast forward about 6 months, and leadership team wants to go out with a bang, and they decide to have another Visitors Day. So they're about to do this, and then I see them for weeks and weeks going through the same process. They're trying to push the Facebook event and do this and that and the other thing, and said, listen guys, do you guys mind if I just, all I want to do is see if we can get people to register their visitors for this meeting. Yeah, keep doing the Facebook thing, keep doing all that other stuff. All I want to do is have them register for the meeting. So I did the same thing. I sent out the email for a couple of days before the chapter meeting. Now keep in mind, I got started pretty late with this. But in the end, I think we had 30 visitors registered, and we had 25 visitors that showed up to the meeting. And we ended up with 4 applications on the spot. We ended up with 3 new members overall. The process works, and it's all about just changing the mindset a little bit of that visitor that is now expected to walk through the door. So what I'd like to do now, we are at the bottom of the hour. I'd like to open this up to any questions that you guys have. Anything that I could possibly answer, I'd be happy to answer that, whether it's about the visitor process, or if you happen to be here on any of our other webinars over the past couple of weeks, If you have any questions about any of that stuff, I'm happy to answer that as well. For those of you that do need to leave right away at the bottom of the hour, you have another appointment to get to, thank you so much for being here today. For the rest of you, please do feel free to ask those questions. I did put a couple of resources up here as well if you'd like to visit any of our other things. We have the support site that has answers to a whole bunch of stuff. We have our YouTube channel. I'd love it if you gave us a like on Facebook. And we also have a webinars group within BNI Connect. And by the way, a great referral for me is to please let people know about these webinars. Our very next webinar, we are going to start our leadership team series of webinars. That's coming up next. We're actually starting that tomorrow with chapter goals for leadership teams, and then we're going to go into next week's series, which is leadership team tools and reports, the web pages, and online renewals. And that will close out our month, and I'll tell you what, we're going to do the exact same thing next month. So if you missed any of these, you'd like to join us for a live webinar next month, please do. Otherwise, you can check out the recordings, and all of the March recordings will be up there shortly as well. All right, we do have one question so far from John. John says, do we register our subs the same way as visitors? What I would do is I would check with your leadership team on that. There's no harm in registering your subs. But what you don't want to do is confuse a sub with a visitor. When a person walks into a BNI chapter, they can have one hat on. That can either be a guest, a substitute, or a visitor. Now, registering them as a sub has the benefit that, I know I've invited subs in the past, and they forget, they don't show up, they, whatever it is, they're not prepared for it. So this has the benefit of giving them the email reminders, and they have the directions and the address and all that kind of stuff. However, what you need to make sure is that the leadership team knows it's a sub, so that afterwards they don't give you credit for inviting a visitor, because that's going to actually lower your conversion ratio when it comes to traffic lights and things like that. So definitely talk to your leadership team about whether or not they want you to register your subs that way. Does that make sense, John? All right, cool. Let's see, Marie says, how does a chapter change the wording of the visitor invitation letter? So the, the visitor invitation letter can't be changed by the chapter. The visitor invitation letter can only be changed by your executive director in your region. So it is a single campaign letter that all of the chapters use. So if you end up changing it for one chapter, it does change it for all of the chapters in the region. So that means that certain things, like if you happen to charge for breakfast or something like that. I know some of the bigger metropolitan regions. I know Manhattan and Miami and places like that. I mean, they could have even visitors have to pay $20 for the breakfast because they're meeting in hotels that just they carry that fee with it. So unfortunately, we can't really accommodate that particular part right now, though it's definitely something that's kind of on the list for the future. What I would recommend doing in cases like that, or if you want to, let's say some chapters have wanted to use that email invitation for something like a Visitor's Day. However, the wording of it doesn't really work for a Visitor's Day invitation specifically. So what I would tell you to do is to just go in and send one of these invitations to yourself. Once you have it here, you can then edit it yourself. So you can either edit the message or you can forward it. Take out all this header information, so you're left just with the invitation portion of it. Make whatever changes you need to make in there, and be able to use that as a template going forward with those minor changes. So does that part make sense, Marie? I know you have a second part to your question as well, but does that part make sense? Cool. All right, so the second question was, how soon did you say the webinar today will be available, and where can I find them? All right, so there's a couple of different places you can find them. I usually have these done within about 48 hours. So no later than the end of the week will these be up in the archives. The place to find them, there's two ways to find them. The first way is, you see this question mark up here in the upper right-hand corner? I can zoom in a little bit more if you'd like me to, but this question mark up in the upper right-hand corner will take you to the support site. And right on the support site is it's full of all sorts of articles and how-to documents and everything like that. But right at the top, the very first article that's in here is the upcoming webinars. And you can see January 2016 series were recorded. February was recorded, so you can click on either of those. Also, in the individual ones, once I've uploaded them, I'll put a link there. So this one should be up there shortly. You can see the other ones from this month are already up there. So very soon, step 4 and 5 will be up there as well. So you can go there. You can check out the videos. Now, the second place you can go is to our YouTube channel. These are all passed through from our YouTube channel, so youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Again, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. There you'll find our March series as it gets uploaded. You'll also find a ton of other stuff. Again, this is our archive, so it has pretty much every webinar we've ever done for the past couple of years, and it also has the education moments, so little short videos. For example, there is a invite a visitor education moment here, so it's a very short 3-minute video that has the process of how do you invite a visitor, so part of what I showed today. So if you'd like to share just that with your chapter instead of the whole half-hour long webinar, you can just share that 3-minute and 30-second video with them in order to show them how to invite a visitor. Same thing for registering a visitor. So does that answer all your questions, Marie? Awesome, awesome, awesome. That was the last question I have on my screen. Does anybody else out there have any questions whatsoever about visitors in BNI Connect or anything else? I'm happy to answer those questions now. All right, so if there's no additional questions, thank you guys. Especially I recommend, oh, hold on, one more question. John says, does this count as a CEU? Absolutely, please go to the home button. Go to the home button and make sure that you click on Enter CEU. Enter a CEU slip for today's training session. Submit CEU slip. Give yourself a 1 credit for a BNI webinar. And go ahead and submit that 1 credit for today's session. Good question, John, and thank you. All right. On that note, again, thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Again, I recognize some of the names on here of people that have been here every day for every session during this whole series, so thank you guys so much for sticking with it and learning so much more about the system. I think it's going to benefit your chapter greatly. Have a wonderful rest of the week, everyone, and happy connecting.